Good afternoon, everyone. I am Piedrahita, public school English teacher in Medellin. I hold a master in learning and teaching processes in second languages from Universidad Pontificia Bolivariana. And today I'm going to share how I have been bringing theories and concept of critical literacy into my classroom. This is the agenda for today. First, this is the title of my research report, Reconstruction and Redesign of Learners' Social Issues and Practices of Power through a Critical Literacy Approach. The agenda, what is critical literacy, how I got to explore this concept, how I developed the research during pandemic times, and what are the findings, connections between concept and class dynamics. Uh, First, what is critical literacy? It has the roots in Paulo Freire's concept of education as a possibility to transport inequities into more just societies. Some of the main goals or principles is to critique the text and question the status quo. It means uh, we need to critique, to question everything that has been taken for granted in order to make marginalized populations visible by giving them voice. We need to question, challenge, deconstruct, and combat injustices. That is one of the main goals of critical literacy. And there is a big difference between critical thinking and critical literacy. Along this presentation, I will show this difference. And critical literacy is a cultural practice. This is not something that happens within the classroom. Uh, we need to read the world from critical lens in order to critique, understand, and transform. And the goal is social justice and a more equitable world. Here are some important concepts and definition. Literacy in a traditional conception of literacy is the ability to code and decode words. But critical literacy is a way of being and doing in the world, according to Vasquez 2019. It means that is not something that happens in the classroom. It is a way of being, of living. We need to be critical readers wherever we are. The concept of text. In traditional schooling, texts are conceived as the print text material we work with, textbooks, books, magazine, but text as Vasquez states, is everything we interact with. A text can be a song, a color, a word, an image, a TV program, body language, a movement, discourses. For Jean-Piaget's discourses are divided into primary and secondary. The primary discourses are the ways of being, of thinking, acting we acquire when we interact with our class family. And secondary discourses are new ways of dressing, talking, walking, behaving, acting when we interact with others. Deconstruct and reconstruct. Deconstruct is the act of finding or unveiling the hidden messages that we find in text, not a way to take everything for granted. After the analysis, the critical reading, uh, we can deconstruct and finally reconstruct. Reconstruct is to redesign. The texts are not natural representation of the word. They can be interrogated, deconstructed, and analyzed. Someone creates a text, a song, a drawing, a comic, an image, and that text can be interrogated. If we find social injustices, we can reconstruct it or redesign it. Mora 2014 claims for teachers whose ethical behavior avoid marginalizing students in class. Literacy and power. Professor Hilary Youngs, in her book, makes or finds a connection between language and power. She states that language has the power to transmit social ideologies and injustices, but language can also transport those injustices into more equitable words. In the traditional school, the student is conceived as someone who doesn't know anything, and so the teacher is on the top because he has the knowledge and the power, and the student is here. And the methodology is learning by heart, memorization. And when we memorize, we reproduce. When we reproduce, we accept everything. We take everything for granted. And when we don't read social injustices, we assume that they are right. But in the first century school, the ideal school, mutual humanization by Paulo Freire is when learners and educators learn together. And when we question and challenge social injustices, it's not a matter of using the concept of coding and decoding words. It goes beyond what is behind those words, the text that Professor Vasquez talks about. Now, 3 years ago, when I started working in my school, I noticed that they were used to working under a grammar translation method. They were used to using the grammar, the concept, the structure to form sentences that professor asked them to write. But what I asked them to do was to analyze their context, the situation that happened around them, and to describe them. They also designed some comics to describe or to support their description. And for instance, they noticed the difference between the way of dressing in 1980 as how people dress um, in these times. The conclusion is that music has influenced generations. Rock in the 80s, reggaeton in the current generation, and people tend to dress according to the music they listen to. So there is a big influence, not only the way of dressing, but also in the way of acting. And with this activity, we uh, approach what critical thinking was because we were interpreting social injustices, and they classify those experiences that they describe into racism, marginalization, social inequities, gender inequities, people who are disabled, who don't have the same rights. That is marginalization. On when they describe the first day of class, when some partners reject them, that is discrimination. And we created our own textbook. And when I started my master, I explored the concept of critical literacy. I noticed or I realized that I was doing was promoting critical thinking. But critical thinking is awareness of social injustices, but without any action to promote a change. And critical literacy is taking action to transfer those inequities or injustices. And the problems that I found out were grammar translation method. The textbooks were decontextualized. Uh, some teachers use the same books to work with the student 2, 3, 4 more years with the same content, and that content does not represent learners' daily lives. Students were considered as banking system. No real issues were considered, and exclusion stereotypes, the social injustices that we discovered in our neighborhood, were not considered in the class agenda. After uh, having worked with a group with critical thinking, I had to decide the group to work with during this research. There was a poster in my school, a big poster. I pasted it on the board and asked each group to analyze it. Most of the groups interpreted the poster from a linguistic perspective. Verbs, adjective, colors, people, actions, but only one group noticed something different. The group that had worked with critical thinking said, for instance, teacher, the people who are smoking, who are homeless, who are making trouble are black. They're scanned. Or there is a boy here near the yellow school bus. There's a homeless person, and he is black. And the others who are behaving in a normal way are white. And a boy whose hairstyle is different to the others is alone. There is marginalization. So I decided to work with this group because they had previously explored what critical thinking was. I drew on Lewis on error four dimension of critical literacy. What is this? To take action first, we need to disrupt the commonplace. That is to question everything that has been taken for granted in order to unveil the hidden messages or the ideologies in text, in a song, in music, in a color, in a body language. Then the second dimension is understand multiple viewpoints, is to recognize the voices that are silenced and heard in text. Then those social injustices discovered in this text are interpreted or are compared with situations that happen in our neighborhoods. That is the third dimension, focus on sociopolitical issues to find the relations between power and language and how the society works. And the fourth dimension, maybe the most important one, is take action and promote social justice. It's to draw on previous reflection to promote a change, to transform. And here is the research question. How do learners respond to deconstruct and redesign social inequities and practices of power through a critical literacy approach? And to answer this question, I use for text. Uh, the text were selected due to the methodology or the virtual methodology that I had to implement. I said had to because I had previously proposed a face-to-face interaction with my students, but due to the pandemic, I had to do it in a virtual or through virtual platforms. For this reason, I implemented some text that the students interact with: music, bullying cases or cyberbullying, tales, and YouTubers or influencers. The first text was music, reggaeton, and pop. The second, tales, childhood tales, Cinderella. The third one is bullying, cyberbullying, and number four, influencer. With each text, I follow the four dimension. Reggaeton, Tusa, we disrupted the commonplace, we understood the multiple viewpoints, we focused on socio-political issues, and then we took action and promoted social justice. And then we continued with the second text. The findings were classified into three categories. Category number one, learners reading text from different perspectives. Number two, learners' lives connecting with social issues. And category number three, learners and social transformational action when using critical literacy lens. And here are the findings. This finding has to do with disrupting the commonplace, the first dimension. It was kind of difficult to ask my learners to identify social ideologies, injustices, because they said that they were used to listening to the song, to listening to the tale, and they didn't have or find any social issue. But when I asked them to read the color, the body language, the clothes, the movement, the scenarios, they notice a lot of social injustices. In Tucson reggaeton, they found out that the baddest badge that were foster revenge, bad decisions, sex, drugs, and hate. And the physical attributes of the girls uh, serves the idea of beauty, fame, power, and light, feminism, and gender inequity. In Cinderella, as you can notice, There are four girls. The first one, look at the position. She is the first girl. The three, the two stepsister and stepmother are behind her. And the girl is blonde. Her eyes are green. She is beautiful, and her skin is white. And what happened with the other girls? Their skin, her hair coloring style is common. And here is a concept of stereotypes. Stereotype is the concept of beauty. If you are a beauty person, you have the right to have the best social position. And it is not acceptable, according to what we found, that in the tale, the girl Cinderella be a slave because she's beautiful, she's white and blonde. But the stepsister and stepmother can be because of the skin color or social class. Here is exclusion racism. Racism is when a dark skinned boy who was part of the research, he said, teacher, look at the servant. The servant is dark skinned as me, and he is a servant. But the prince and Cinderella are white, and there is a matter of racism. Male chauvinism and no right to decide. There is a phrase from Cinderella. The prince said, I declare that I will marry the girl whose foot I declare. It means that he is not asking the girl to marry him. He said, she will marry me. In other words, girls have no voice. And these are the voices that are heard, women's voices. And men's voices are heard, and women's voices are silenced. In bullying cases, we explore real situation experiences. And although some students said that they didn't promote um, bullying cases, they didn't do anything when they observed a bullying case, we concluded that when we don't do anything, we accept this as taken for granted. And so in critical literacy, we need to do something to change or to transform this reality. And YouTubers, there is exclusion, marginalization, racism, and social class because YouTubers, according to them, what way they constructed is that the YouTuber try to serve the concept of perfect life because the scenario they choose to record their videos are luxurious. They wear expensive clothes, they have expensive cell phones, cars, and they are saying, I am a YouTuber, I have the power. If you don't have, if you are not like me, you are excluded. You cannot be a YouTuber. And if a person who is maybe their skin poor or not so attractive or beautiful, maybe that person will not have as many followers as these YouTubers do. This is a matter of marginalization. In number two, finding number two has to do with understanding multiple viewpoints. This was very interesting because we need to understand different perspectives. According to Professor Vasquez, there is always an intention when someone creates a text. Let's remember, a text is everything we interact with. A TV program, a color, a facial gesture. And when we are not critical readers, we are positioned in a specific manners. But when we are critical reader, we can take or build a strong argument to say, okay, I support or not any point of view. I use or adapt to the grammar, the vocabulary um, to promote dialogue between students, and they stood on other shoes. Some a student was the singer. Other student decided to be an adult to understand how people think, depending on the age, depending on their interest, on the sex. And the person who was an adult woman asked Carol G, the reggaeton singer, do you think your clothes in the video makes that women be seen with sexual sense and not as ladies? And Ed Sheeran, the artist who sings Perfect, asks Carol G, Why do you refer to men as bad? And this was their way to understand other points of view and to deconstruct the text. In bullying cases, we covered conditioners, and they said, for example, the student who didn't do, or who said that he didn't do anything when he observed a bullying case. If I were uh, a bystander, I would do something to stop the bullying. According to Professor Vasquez, texts are never neutral. They have intentions. And in critical literacy is to be critical enough to understand or to unveil those intentions. And number three, learners as promoted or social justice when questioning discourses. Focusing on social political issues, that is the third dimension. After that, the students unveil the hidden messages in reggaeton, in pop, in bullying cases, in the table, and YouTuber. They found out that those social injustices in the tales are reproduced in real life interactions. Social ideologies. Men don't cry. Men don't cry in reggaeton. If you're a man, you cannot cry. You cannot show any sign of weakness. Otherwise, you can be mocked or rejected. And this is the reason why some people commit suicide, because they cannot show to be weak. They cannot tell others that he or she is suffering. Women are the ultimate god of men. Black and poor people always suffer. We observe this in Cinderella, but we also observe this in the media. The media has a big influence on our ways of dressing, talking, behaving. Black people has the right to suffer. White people have the right to succeed. We can see this in television. The first people to die in a TV program, in a movie, is black, poor, or ugly. And in our daily life interaction, we notice how a common saying is in Spanish, alguien murió y como era de bonito. This is something common in Spanish. And why? Because this is transmitted or reproduced through the media. Money and beauty mean power. And Professor Hilary Youngs states that popular saying, metaphors, and beliefs reproduce social injustices. Metaphors, magic, feed, and declare. From Cinderella, we took a phrase: the magic will last until midnight. What is magic? The metaphor is magic is beauty, is money, or is power, and it will not last forever. For instance, they compared this metaphor with real situations in their neighborhood. In the case of drug dealers, people who have money, who have the control over everything and everyone. And the magic doesn't last forever, because in any moment they will be caught and taken to prison. And that's what magic means. And we identify this, and we compare, we notice that what happened in the text, in musical videos, in reggaeton, in bullying cases, in tales, happen in real life. And the concept of discourses by Jean-Paul G, the dominant group determine who are marginalized. Because if you are rich, white, you belong a high social class, you determine who are marginalized. Those people who don't meet these social standards. Focusing on socio-political issues for dimension and defining as learners make connection between text and real life experiences. In a closer context, they observed that what happened musical videos in reggaeton um, happen in their context. People who suffer from love failure, they drink alcohol, consume drugs, sometimes they take revenge, they make bad decisions, and they feel identified. Um, People uh, who are marginalized in social networks and on Facebook, on Instagram, because of the skin color, social class, physical characteristics. They are also marginalized in in society, and they make the connection. Promoting social justice and taking action. This is the fourth dimension, and maybe the most important, because here we stop analyzing, critiquing, and reflecting. We went further. We took action. Learners' critical literacy products emerge from interests, talents, personal needs, and emotion. Let me show you what we did. How we took action. This is the song. This is Tusa, reggaeton. As you can see, the cover includes common people, disabled people who are not included on musical videos. And when those people are not included, they are marginalized. And the way to take action and to promote social justice is to say, no matter our social condition, our skin color, our physical attributes, we have the same rights, and we are human after all. TUSA is the effect of a love failure, but here the name is human after all. It means that no matter how much you suffer, you have the right to succeed. You cannot make others suffer just because you suffer. We are human after all. And what the song is attempting to do is to promote positive actions. On the left, as you can hear, this is the new version of the song. Students said that the read has an impact on the emotion, the beats, and this is why sometimes bad decisions are made when we are influenced by music, reggaeton, rock, because of the beats we feel active, and they changed. There was a boy who was a singer who played the piano. He changed the beats for a softer rhythm, and here is the original version of the song, and on the right side there is a new version. We changed the word that promoted social injustices, revenge, bad decisions. We also changed the colors, the scenarios. Another finding is learners use social media to promote social justice. In Cinderella, there was a text that we analyze, critique the most, because it entailed a lot of social injustices, and there are some conclusion after we deconstructed the text. Society cannot instill that women have to marry rich men to be socially accepted, and that men have to get money to have power. This is what the media, what songs, what some tales offered or reproduced. The beauty is a social construction. Success and failure do not depend on the skin color, physical appearance, or social class. And students feel identified with some characters of this tale. They said, I am dark skinned, I am marginalized, I am not respecting my rights. And for that reason, we decided to change. Um, as you notice, the characters here are different to the original ones. The skin color is dark. The hairstyle is very common, and and they changed the ending of the tale. In the original version, the prince said, "I will marry the girl," but in the new version, they gave the women the voice that has been silenced. Here, they had voice, and she said, "No, I will not marry you." And this is the way to say, "I am a woman. I have the right to decide." Before implementing or carrying out the project, students feared that they were passive users of social media. They believe everything they saw on the internet. They posted, they reacted, they liked everything. They did not interpret others' intention. And critical literacy is to understand the intention of those texts and to take action. And how did we do it? We decided to create an anti-bullying campaign to promote a social change in our school context because of many problems that are affecting students who are bullied by others. And we use the English, our talents, the talent to design, the talent to pronounce, to describe, in order to create a campaign together. And we posted this on the school social networks. And finding number seven, learners' identities reflected in their social contribution through the media. Uh, the most significant finding was maybe the way in which students restore their identities. Um, Here, as we carried out the project during pandemic times, we concluded that the groups that are privileged in Colombia are soccer players, artists, politicians, people who have the power, who have money, who have the fame. But what happened with doctors and nurses who are risking their life to save others? They are the real influencers. So students decided to become influencers to give other populations voice. In this case, nurses, doctors, and farmers. And a student uh, drew the images, designed the images, and she said the real influencers in Colombia are not beautiful people, rich people, blonde. She said real influencers are those people who overcome negative situations, people who suffer from cancer, people who are disabled, who are fat, and try to uh, become healthy, or teachers who do significant actions in favor of the community. And here are the description. We use English not as a goal as in a traditional school, but as a bridge to connect learners with their needs, the need to transfer the real issues. Um, Health influencer, YouTuber number one. This is the girl who decided to become a nurse.
Talk about the effort of some to sustain relevant
And she said, "I am a YouTuber and a positive YouTuber," because they discovered that not all the YouTubers do something meaningful for the community. She gave voices to people who are ignored, who are silenced. Other student who is a cheerleader, she decided to teach her community how to make most of the time in lockdown times. Other student who plays the piano decided to teach others how to do something interesting during pandemic times. Not only accessing internet all the time, believing everything they see, reacting to everything, not doing something, learning something new as music. And he talked about music, how music influenced him since he was 5 or 6 years old. When he was at age, he was exposed to music to piano to guitar, and this is why he decided to become a musician. And he said that other people are influenced by music, by other uh, type of genders, and they try to behave the same way that they are asked to. For example, in reggaeton and YouTuber, the student whom who was dirty scanned, he said, "Teacher, I realized that in the text that we deconstructed, that we observed, black people suffer, black people are not respected, and I am a black boy, but I'm going to do something significant for my community." And Professor mm, Gordon states that the concept of identity is a concept that we are um, placed by the community. The community says who are marginalized, who are privileged. In this case, he was marginalized, but he said, "I'm going to restore my identity. I am a person, no matter my skin color, my social condition, my physical characteristic. I have the same rights, and I'm going to show others that I can be an influencer. Not a person who has fame, who has money, who is rich, beautiful, attractive. No, a person who does something significant." And he recorded a 15-minute video while cleaning the stream that crosses his house, and he did something positive for his community. Look, and this is what he
Time
did.
my community. I made the decision to qualify and flow myself.
And there are some other challenges. They criticize the irrelevant challenges on social network and also dangerous. And they said, we need to do something significant. If we are YouTubers, we need to promote a change. Let's Facebook more books challenge, and they detail how to do it. No racist challenge by respecting other, respecting differences in which situation, how to do it. Other students describe how people are marginalized or prejudiced because of the way they dressed. If a boy play with a door, he is rejected because if you're a man, if you're a boy, you have the same toys, the same jobs. If you're a man, you cannot be a secretary. And the court said, no, we have the right to decide where to work, how to dress. And finally, some conclusions. Learners are capable to go beyond simple awareness about social injustices. It means that if we foster critical thinking, students think in a critical manner, but if we um, help them go beyond, they can transport their own social condition. Professor Basket says that no matter how many people we impact, if we impact our own way of being, we are taking action. We can, maybe we will not change the world, but we are changing our own world. And here some implications. If you have any question, if you want to know the project, the evidences, just let me know. Here is my contact information. Thank you very much, and it was a pleasure to share my research reports with you.